Tom Stoukas coming to you from Sarnia, Ontario on this Thursday night, September 4th. First week of school, first week of the month. See how it goes. Hope everybody's having a nice day so far. So yeah, the first things, what are we looking at? We have to say this. I remember when I was, this is like 20, 30 years ago, there was always this big debate on the Young Offenders Act. And the Young Offenders Act is for people under 18 who commit a crime. The idea is we don't want to ruin their lives because they did something stupid. So we're not going to treat them like a regular criminal. We're going to treat them like a young offender. And people were bitching about it. Oh, they should be treated like adults if they're going to commit crimes. But back then it was crimes we're talking stealing and maybe very minor crimes. Now all over the headlines in Toronto I'm seeing this week is teenagers, not just this week, but for the last few weeks, is teenagers doing some horrible shit, very violent crime. And it's getting to the point where you got to start saying this Young Offenders Act is not cutting it at all. What its original intention is totally being abused. And yeah, it's horrible. So you had a few months ago, I don't know, this young offender, crazy kid, killed the old lady she was gardening in her front yard. Then you had the other one, the 14-year-old kid, the savage from wherever the hell he's from, kills an old lady in the the grocery store parking lot. And then now you got, last week, a couple teenagers murdered a kid, a 19-year-old in Scarborough Mall. And now we got, I guess there was a gunfight between kids yesterday in Toronto by Toronto High School, and then today they put out an APB for a 14-year-old who's wanted for attempted murder in Scarborough. So yeah, it's like a teenage crime wave, and I bet you anything, it's these crime guys, these gangs use the kids because they know they can't get charged and they're not going to face severe penalties, so they get them to do their dirty work. Or the kids are just thugs, So that's got to change. And it's like I said, the Young Offender Act was the Young Offender Act. I think it's called the Youth Criminal Justice Act or whatever. They changed the name, but it's the same idea. It was created in a different era before Canada started mass importing these third world savages, because that's what they are. I'm sorry. And we got to scrap it and treat these criminals like adults instead of letting them out on bail to go home to mommy. I think these kids, I think on one of those crimes, they're out on bail right away. Whatever. They should be deported if they're not. Their parents, if they're not Canadian, deport. I don't know. These guys they're killing people. It's pretty bloody stuff. So that's gonna have to come up in the debate. The Youth Justice Act. It needs to be revised big time. So, and then the next thing is they found one of the gunmen remember the Indians shooting up on the snowmobile bridge in Muskoka. They're shooting up and causing all sorts of problems and violating all sorts of gun safety regulations and environmental regulations. So they arrested one finally, some guy from Brampton. Shocking, I know. So at least they got one of them. But I'm sure he'll get a slap on the wrist. Or I think they're going to revoke his firearms license or whatever. But anyway, whatever. If it ain't shooting into the river, they're putting whatever their idol, their deities, whatever, they throw it all in the river. So if they're not shooting in the river, they're throwing that shit in the river, or shitting in the river, who knows. And then last but least, apparently Canada's economy is destroyed and we're broke like Greece was in 2010, and the government's coming up with a big austerity budget. So for those of you who don't know what austerity is, it's when the government raises taxes and or cuts expenses, like firing civil servants, cutting programs, cutting benefits, and then raising taxes and fees on the revenue side. So basically, it's just like we got to cut costs and we got to raise more money, basically. So the deficit in Canada is unsustainable. So they got to do some big cuts, probably to civil service, probably provincial transfers, probably benefits, probably tax increases. Lots of stuff. It's going to be ugly, I think. So, yeah, all good news in Canada. And if they fire all these civil servants, what are they going to do, man? Like, are they going to go work at Tim Hortons? I don't think so. So, yeah, we got big problems here. Big problem. Okay. Just going to make sure everything's working right here. Sorry. Okay. Yeah. So we got big problems. Let's go to the feed today. So that was basically what I was seeing today on the X. Just crime and bad news for the economy and useless politicians. Okay. Let's start this. So this is like a weird trend. Teenage killers roaming the streets of GTA, and they'll kill you. They'll shoot you in the head for your iPhone for nothing, for $50. So here's this 14-year-old boy wanted for attempted murder in Scarborough double shooting. 14-year-old, man, that's nuts. And they released a picture of him because he's at large, and in cases like they're allowed to release the identity of the young offender if he's dangerous and he's at large, apparently. So there he is right there. There's the young scholar. Valentino Bethel is wanted in double shooting in Scarborough. So, yeah, I don't know if he's from Canada, but if he's not, deport. None of this young offender shit. So teenage suspects cannot be identified under the provisions of the Youth Criminal Justice Act, but Toronto Police said they have obtained a judicial authorization to name him and release his image. He wanted for 11 charges, including 2 counts of attempted murder, 2 counts of discharging a firearm with intent, and 2 counts of failing to comply with a release order. So he was on release. Okay. 6'1" only. Okay. So he was already on release, I think. Like, they all are. All these guys that get in trouble, they're already on release. It's ridiculous. You know, we need to make, like, go Joseph Stalin and do, like, some Arctic gulags to send these guys, because they're not fit to walk in society. Yes. Yes. We're in big trouble. We need Jesus for sure. Alberta, I don't know. Alberta's not much better than Ontario. All right, next. I was like, when are they going to arrest somebody? They finally arrested somebody for remember the shooters, these Rambo types in the woods in Muskoka. They arrested one of them. I count more than one. I say 5 of them, and they only got one, but they're still looking for more. So arrested 24-year-old Gherkin what the hell? Gurkenwal Singh from Brampton in careless shooting incident in Muskoka area. He's now charged with careless use of firearm ×2. Firearms and license have been revoked. Investigation ongoing for other suspects. Well, he should rat. He's not ratting them out, it looks like. Okay. So, he'll probably just get a slap on the wrist, whatever. They're still going to destroy the river. All right. So, there's this. So, we saw the 14-year-old in the Scarborough shooting. Now we got the 12-year-old charged with attempted. This is nuts, man. This is nuts. 12-year-old charged with attempted murder 2 days ago in Markham, who was out on bail at the time of the shooting, was released on bail again today. This is nuts. This is nuts. We need a politician who will talk about this kind of stuff, like the young offenders, self-defense, like the pepper spray. I was saying pepper spray is illegal for women. Shouldn't be. But Pierre doesn't talk about this. All he does is jail and bail, or jail not bail, or some bullshit. Yeah, well, that's not working. Even the jail thing's not working. Can you believe that? A 12-year-old man. All right. That's my aunt from Alberta. I might have to move to Alberta if Canada keeps going the way it is. But Alberta's not far behind, maybe. I don't know. If they're not shooting in the river, they're putting stuff in the river. This is a thing. This is in the UK, but it's happening here too. And whatever, I don't know what the religion is, but they do like to dump stuff in the river, even dead bodies and shit. And all I know is I've seen rivers in India, so I don't have much faith in these guys. Like they say, the Indians in Canada will say we use clay and it's environmentally friendly and that's what we make our god. So you might, but what about the other Indians the other 1,000 Indians? Are they all using the clay, the environmentally friendly thing when you dump in the river? So yeah, this is kind of like the mosque, like the Muslims praying in the streets. This shit should be banned too. The street praying for sure, but this stuff should be done. They can go build their own private pond and do that shit, because they're only going to do it more and more. The more they get used to it. But look, it can't be that good for the water. All right. Next, this is about austerity. Kind of like I was in Greece when they did their austerity measures, and it sucked because the taxes went way up. They did an austerity tax, and it sucked because if you were getting, I was getting paid in Greece, so I was getting tax deductions, and you noticed it, man. So we'll see if our austerity measures in Canada, what they'll be. I'm sure there'll be some tax increases and cuts, but benefit cuts, and obviously civil cuts of the civil service. Just depends on how crazy he's going to cut. Like, is it going to be like Chrétien did in the 90s? It was like a chainsaw cutting, pissed off a lot of people, but could be we see a repeat of that. So Canada enters a recession as exports plunge 27%. Businesses investment collapses 10%. More pain coming as Canada's new PM picks political fights with Trump rather than protecting the 6 million Canadians whose jobs export to the U.S. Okay, let's see. This guy always has good takes on. I don't want to listen to all for him.
Meanwhile, according to Royal Bank of Canada, housing costs, mortgage, property tax, utilities, eats up more than half of disposable income.
Big problem.
In Canada. U.S., it's closer to a third. Incidentally, according to RBC, in Toronto, it costs 77% of disposable income for the median household on housing costs. In Vancouver, it's 98.6%, not a joke.
Crazy.
Unsurprisingly, 70% of Canadians now say owning a house is, quote, impossible. Unemployment in Canada is almost 7%. In the U.S., it's 4.2%. Canadian youth employment is 14.6%, which is Great Depression levels. Last month alone, Canada lost 41,000 jobs. That's almost 400,000 in U.S. terms. And even when they can get a job, Canadian wages are flat since 2016, while growth has fallen off a cliff, with Canada turning in the lowest growth out of 50 developed countries since COVID, with productivity dropping in 15 of the last 17 quarters. Business insolvencies are at a 15-year high, also the highest since the 2008 crisis.
That's going to get
Finally,
worse,
the last man standing, debt. Canada's household debt is the highest in the G7. It's nearly 2.5 times U.S. levels relative to disposable income. Put it all together, according to Stats Canada, 40% of middle-class Canadians are living hand-to-mouth. 25% now live in, quote, material deprivation, including 42% of renters and 45% of single-parent families, of which there are many since Canada's marriage rate has collapsed to just half that of the U.S. Less marriage means less kids. Canada's fertility rate is now 1.1 per woman, so every generation drops in half. That also means for every new Canadian, births minus deaths, there are 28 new migrants. Population replacement, turbo speed.
Yep.
So as next brought to you by I Trust Capital, Canada is a resource superpower, from oil and natural gas to wheat and hydro, with a tiny population. By all rights, it should be Saudi Arabia, where they don't pay any taxes. Unfortunately, the government fails to exploit these for green reasons, and unfortunately there's no relief in sight for the mass migration or the crashing exports. The migrants because they are the replacement voters for the Liberals, and the exports because instead of cutting deals to preserve millions of jobs, Carney is picking fights with Trump, from censorship to Gaza, while floating goofy fantasies like replacing American exports with the EU, which would take decades if it happened. It could be a long 4 years in Canada. Okay.
Yeah, we're screwed. It's not good. Like it says, we're going to be the new Greece. All right. Here's all the more Canada. Do not give up your guns. See, I find this funny that our government is spending, with our foreign-born public safety minister, Gary Anadats, whatever, spending all their energy and resources going after law-abiding legal gun owners. A lot of them rural, don't live in the city, they're not gangbangers. Meanwhile, GTA is turning into a shooting gallery. So maybe instead of spending all the energy on legal gun owners, start cracking some heads with these gangbangers, cracking some skulls. You know, instead of bugging Canadian owners, law-abiding owners. So this is coming. Carney warns of deep cuts as deficit soars. He looks like George Papandreou, just like from 15 years ago. I think I have to sign in for this. Nope. Canadians should brace for an austerity budget this fall. I mean, like, really it's not like the last 2 years have been rosy. Now we're going to face an austerity budget this fall as Ottawa struggles with ballooning deficits. Speaking to reporters, Carney said federal spending has been climbing at twice the rate of economic growth. Twice the rate of economic growth. That's like if you're spending twice as much as you're making. That's crazy. Federal government expenditures in the past decade is 7% year on year. We must now stop this trend. So that's Trudeau. He's blaming Trudeau, basically. Coming budget will focus on cuts to day-to-day operations of the federal bureaucracy while still carving out room for big investments. So it looks like he's going to go do job cuts. And a lot of Canadians aren't going to be like heartbroken. Like it's not going to hurt. It'll hurt Carney with the public sector union for sure. Okay. So basically, we'll have to see what the austerity measures are. I bet you anything there's going to be some tax increases too. All right. Next, here's some Home invaders. Home invasion's a big problem, and I bet you we're talking about the youth criminals, the young criminals. A lot of them are doing the home invasions because the guys, the bosses, are sending them out. Because who cares if they get caught? Nothing's gonna happen to them. But these guys were home invaders. Okay, what happened here? I just gotta read this headline. This is crazy. Like a lot of stuff in the GTA that didn't happen 20 years ago, and people are like, "Oh, it's the GTA. Who cares? It's Toronto. Who cares?" But yeah, usually it'll start in GTA, but then next you know it'll be in Sarnia. So, woman kidnapped, family member shot during yet another Ontario home invasion. Why would they kidnap her? For money, maybe? Look at these dudes. Parker and Panglia and Shakir Bhatti. These guys should be like deported right away, man. It's ridiculous. One of the accused is a 16-year-old Caledon boy on previous release order. Well, another 20. So, 4 people, 2 of them teenagers, have been charged with a violent home invasion and kidnapping. So, like I said just now, the Youth Justice Act, they're doing home invasions, they're doing shootings. They're not youth. Sorry, they're criminals, savages. So, and this one, 16-year-old on a previous release order. Isn't that nuts? Send them to the Arctic, Guantanamo, or Deport. And one of the residents was shot during the home invasion. Okay. So yeah, we just saw tons and tons of examples of young offenders. We're talking about the temporary foreign workers program yesterday. Pierre wants to end it, and I was saying it's just slop. He's just bullshitting people because it's 6 months after the election. Who cares what he says now? What matters what he said before the election and during the election. He didn't say shit during the election. But just to see how it works, Trudeau said the same thing in 2014 when the Conservatives were in power. CPC, Temporary Foreign Workers Program, lowers Canadian wages and exploits vulnerable people. It needs to be fixed. Whoa. So that was Trudeau. So see how it works? When the Liberals are in power, like they are now, the Conservatives complain about the TFW and vow to fix it. And when the Conservative power is in power, like they were in 2014, the Liberals complain about it and vow to fix it. So that's how the Uniparty works in Canada. And they time it so now Pierre's going all anti-immigrant. By the time the next election comes, he won't even be around probably. So, but it's a release valve for the anti-immigrant crowd to say, "Oh, look, Pierre's he's listening to us." So that is a good example of how the Uniparty works. Once they're in power, the other party, just like with the Epstein thing, the Republicans were telling the Democrats to release the Epstein list. Once the Republicans got into power, the Democrats are telling them to release it. It's ridiculous. It's my background music. All right. So yeah, Pierre's just feeding his supporters slop. Nothing's going to change. And it's just the temporary foreign workers. There's still a lot of illegal immigration, like people getting the permanent residence, and then their PR, and then they get their whole family over. They sponsor the whole family. That's where the growth in immigration is. It's the TFW's abused, of course, but there's still lots of avenues that we need to plug up. So here, is Canada the new Greece? Carney promises an austerity budget this fall. Cabinet's last financial report to Parliament acknowledged deficit running 55% higher than forecast. That's crazy. All right. And we still have people flooding in this country from third world shitholes. Like, I I wish everybody the best. And I think it's better if they stay near their country and try to fix their country instead of coming here, because we're broke. We are broke. Okay, healthcare system is completely dysfunctional, and politicians continue to fuel the dumpster fire with out of control immigration. Remigration will take pressure off our social systems so they can be fixed and work for Canadians. Yeah. Okay. It's funny, this guy is talking about Cape Breton Island. When I moved back home to the island, I noticed two things. There were barely any invaders in my town, and I've seen maybe 5 in a month. People are already violently opposed to them being here. The hills of Cape Breton are itching to sing already, and it hasn't even gotten bad yet. That's funny. Those East Coast people, they're funny. So this is my previous thing, saying the police haven't found them, and a couple hours later, they found one. They found one guy. Okay. And here, bear spray available at outdoors activity retailers across Canada. No license required. Yes, Canadian Tire has bear spray. It's potent enough to persuade a grizzly to reconsider. So, but it's illegal to use it. It's illegal under Canada's criminal code to use bear spray as a self-defense against human attacks. So yeah, that's bullshit. Like, they should at least let the women, if they're going to import all these rapists into Canada, they should at least let the women have some pepper spray. Only the women. Doesn't need the men. But anyway, it's just one thing after another. And the problem is, Pierre is losing his, even I've seen conservative influencers starting to get sick of Pierre. But the problem is there's nobody coming that's can, push these ideas that we talked about tonight. Doug Ford ain't going to do it. He's just as bad as the Liberals. Carolyn Mulroney, she's a globalist, total globalist. So I don't see anybody coming. Maxime Bernier, he's been very consistent, but he's a lot of factions on the right don't like him or don't get along. I don't know why. It's factional politics. It sucks. So I don't see anybody coming to push this stuff with, like the charisma of like a Trump or something to do some real change, because that's what Canada needs. Otherwise, it could get nasty. So we'll see what happens. Lots going on. We're broke, and we're overrun by murderers and rapists. Wow. All right. So that'll be it for tonight. The next broadcast is not till Monday, September 8th. So we'll see what the weekend brings, and we'll talk about it Monday. So until then, have a nice time, and we'll see you then.